And good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Unfiltered Vision News, where we are bringing you the news unfiltered, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday, Eastern Time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So it's been quite a week, and it's Wednesday. I'm serious. There's days I wake up and I'm just like, what day is it again? It's only Tuesday. What? And all this has happened. Yeah, things are happening at neck break speed as to be expected with the Trump administration. And so, we're going to get into some stories today, some follow-ups. It is Women and Wellness Wednesday, and I will have a special guest joining us at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. And hopefully she'll stay along with me for a political segment. But right now we're going to focus on, just talking about women and wellness and just what we can do as women, especially to keep one another healthy. And that just doesn't mean physically, but that also means mentally and spiritually. We have to take care of ourselves in all three angles. So with that, let's get into today's topics on All Sides News. You guys know that's my favorite place to aggregate the news for you and looking at it from all sides and just really checking out how we're covering stories from the left, right, and center. And there are people that are center left and center right. So right now we're looking at this, how the Senate unanimously approves federal tax deduction for cash tip incomes. And this is something that President Trump ran on throughout his time during being a candidate for the 2024 presidency, going into the push. I will say from about July till October, November, they brought up no cash on tips. I'm sorry, no tax on tips, especially for cash tips. Because a lot of times, I don't think people realize this, but servers only get paid, maybe the minimum wage. And then how they make their money is off of their tips. And the reason why their tips were being taxed is because they considered those tips income, right? Because if we pay by credit card, I'm not sure how they deal with cash, but when the employees are paid, when the credit card bill is done, the employer, has to divvy it out. They have to pay certain taxes. And so those taxes are being passed along to those actual servers. And the only reason I know a little bit more about this is my daughter actually worked as a server in different restaurants. She's a bartender now, but she had to explain to me, she was like, no, we don't really make a lot of money hourly. Where we really make our money is with our tips. And so I'm really glad that they unanimously passed a bill that would grant a federal tax deduction up to 25,000 a year on tips earned in cash. So let's see the details. I'm going to check it out from the center because on the left they're saying Senate unexpectedly passes the No Tax on Tips Act in a unanimous vote. How do you unexpectedly Either you voted for or you didn't. Like, were you present or you just have somebody pressing the button for you? That just sounds weird. How do you unexpectedly pass a No Tax on Tips Act in a unanimous vote? Like, none of that makes sense. Sorry. It's written there. I can't change that. That's what it says. And then the center, they're covering it saying Senate unanimously approves bill to eliminate tax on tips. Now that makes sense. Now on the right, they're saying the Senate unanimously passes bill eliminating federal taxes on tips. I don't know if it's eliminating it if you're granting a deduction up to 25,000. You know, if you're going to eliminate it, why is there an amount attached to it? Just saying. Just saying, just putting it out there. So, so Senate unanimously approves federal tax deduction for cash tip incomes. Okay. All right. So the Senate has unanimously passed a bill that would grant a federal tax deduction up to 25,000 a year on tips earned in cash. So that's just a deduction and that's up to. So I guess, if somebody makes 30,000 a year on their tips, are they going to be taxed and what kind of tax bracket is that going to put them into? Because like I was saying before, a lot of these servers, they barely make minimum wage in certain situations. In certain ones, maybe they don't, but in certain circumstances, their tips are how they really make their money. It's not really their hourly wage. So, for the details, the No Tax on Tips Act was brought by Senator Jackie Rosen, a Democrat out of Nevada, and will be limited to workers who earn less than 160,000 in 2025. So they have to have under this three figures of 160. But what happens to those that are 170? I guess that's my question. Like, okay, what about the people that don't fall within this? Because there are few people that make six figures, but then there are some that do. So the dollar figure will be adjusted for inflation in the coming years. The bill still has to be approved by the House before heading to President Trump's desk for signing. So, for context, eliminating taxes on tipped incomes was one of President Trump's most notable promises made during his 2024 election campaign. He first made the promise in June at a campaign rally in Nevada, a state where over 25% of private sector workers work hospitality jobs. In 2007, Representative Ron Paul, a Republican from Texas, sponsored a similar bill, though it did not receive a vote. And the media covered it this way. Several outlets like The Hill, which is center bias, Just the News that leans right, and Politico leans left, Axios that leans left, and others wrote that the bill eliminates federal taxes on tips, though the bill does not state this. Interesting. So it eliminates federal taxes on tips. Okay. So NBC News that leans left was more careful with its framing, not mentioning the elimination of tips anywhere in its coverage, and instead prominently noting the dollar threshold and cash stipulations of the bill. Track the status of Trump's other campaign promises with all sides. And they give a link here because they do track literally what he's doing and saying. Um, which I do appreciate. So actually, I'm gonna kind of bookmark that. We're not gonna go to that page. We're gonna stay right here for just a second because I really wanted to see how, as you can see, how it's pointing out the bias, right? NBC that leans left, they didn't mention the elimination of, the federal taxes on tips. But my question is, again, there's a range, right? If it was just going to be eliminating them completely, it doesn't matter if that person earns 300,000. It should be eliminated, right? But you're putting a threshold on it, which means it's not completely gone. It's just gone for people who make under a certain amount. So to me, it's just disingenuous to say that you've eliminated this tax because you really haven't. You've isolated it in the assumption that there are few people that will make up to 160,000 a year. And, there may be, close to maybe 70, 80% of the people that do, but what happens to the people that make more than that? So what are they going to be subject to when it comes to taxes? I think that's the part where we need to flush that out and see, okay, if you're making 165,000 a year and you're in the hospitality industry and you have a position that earns tips, what does your tax threshold look like? Right? Um, can you still deduct the 25,000 if you make over 160,000? And those are the questions that we really need answered when it comes to what this really is. And I'll definitely, start taking a look at that further into the week, because I'm sure this is going to come up again. But those, like I said, those are the questions that I have where I really want to look more at the bill, and what it really means when they talk about the deduction and when they're talking about people who earn less than 160,000. So that was one of the top stories that we needed to talk about. Um, and this has been a big, big controversy, conversation with former President Joe Biden and the media bias alert. Why wasn't Biden's cancer caught sooner? Biased media are cherry picking health guidance to fit their preferred narrative. Again, we are dealing with a human being. And there, like I said, on Monday, when we covered this, sometimes it's okay to not be political in certain circumstances. Sometimes it's just okay to stop and take stock in somebody's life. This is somebody's husband. This is somebody's dad. This is somebody's grandfather. This is somebody's brother. He is someone to somebody. We may not like his political, you know, acumen. We may not like some of the decisions that he made while he was in politics. Some of us he may have rubbed the wrong way, but at the end of the day, this is still a human being that is, I'm not sure how much in the fight he is with this, but he's been fighting a very serious disease. And for it to metastasize the way it has, there is a question how long he was ill. But to that, like I said, it's okay to have compassion for people. And this is one of those moments where it shouldn't be a political football, where we should actually just go, okay, you know what? Let's take a minute. Let's take a breath, right? We know there were a lot of things going on during his presidency. We know that um, mentally he did have some challenges, and we saw that in the debate. There was a lot going on, and there's a lot that's now being exposed behind that. But in this moment right here, we need to just step back and be human, and really have some concern for somebody who's going to possibly lose their life soon. We don't know. because the cancer is that aggressive. And so that's all I'm going to say to that. And we're going to get to the next story. This is one I heard a little bit about yesterday. Um, is Trump announcing the Golden Dome missile defense shield. He said a little bit about this Golden Dome following the inauguration. So we're going to take a little bit of a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to start here with this story of the defense shield and really, just dig into what it is, what we should expect. And again, how much is this going to cost us now? So I will see you guys on the other side.
At All Sides, we believe unbiased news doesn't exist. To get more clicks and make more money, media outlets often report news with a left, right, or sensational slant, either to suit their own agenda or because by telling us what we want to hear, we'll come back for more. Several news outlets in the center do a good job of portraying both sides equitably, but for the most part, American news media is biased. Bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. The key is to get multiple perspectives. But making matters worse, social media and internet search results are heavily filtered, showing us the most popular opinion or results that match our preferences and make us happy. That means we're all living in filter bubbles, where we're only exposed to viewpoints we already agree with, making us less informed and less tolerant of different people and ideas. At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it? All Sides has created a patented, fair, transparent process to rate the media bias of hundreds of news outlets and writers. We assess each media source and rate them as far left, center, lean right, or far right, allowing you to quickly identify different perspectives. All Sides is constantly evolving our media bias engine. The more you participate, the better our ratings will be, and the better our news coverage will be. Go to allsides.com to get involved.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, where we're bringing you the news unfiltered 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, Eastern Time. And thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we're going to start by talking about the how Trump has announced the Golden Dome missile defense shield. He had a press conference yesterday, and there in the picture you can see Pete Hegseth that was there talking to him about this. And now we're going to see how much this is going to cost us. Nothing comes without a check for the American people. Let's just say that. So President Donald Trump revealed a plan on Tuesday to develop a sophisticated missile defense shield dubbed Golden Dome, predicting a $175 billion cost and a 3-year timeline. So the details are the Golden Dome will intercept missiles launched from any location worldwide and from space. Okay, that's good. The project is inspired by Israel's Iron Dome, which protects the country from short-ranged missiles, such as those Iran launched against the nation last spring. Trump plans for the shield to be completed before the end of his term, with the Congressional Budget Office estimating a cost between 161 and 542 billion over the next 20 years. Yeah, because once you build something like this, you have to maintain it, right? And that's the part. It's like, okay, what does the maintenance look like on this? And part of this, like, part of me is like, yeah, I don't mind it. You're spending money to protect us. My whole concern is making sure that the money's not going to be wasted, right? Just like in California, when they had the high-speed rail that to this date still hasn't happened, but they've wasted billions of dollars and they keep asking for more money. And it's like, well, you're not producing anything. Where is the investigation for that? I just don't want this to turn into that, if that makes sense. Sounds great, but let's make sure that it actually gets done. So, for the critics, military officials opposed to the project say they have not expressed a need for such an extensive shield, noting that the U.S. is not under threat from either of its neighbors. And that's a whole lie. That is a whole lie. We are at constant threat from people, from world leaders that say it with impunity. Are you serious right now? China, for one, you know, South Korea too. I'm just saying, there's been threats of EMP attacks against our country. So for people in the military to say, "Oh no, we're fine," yeah, you're part of the problem, and you're probably on the payroll to say that. Okay, if it wasn't true, why are people building bunkers all over? Why does was it Zuckerberg? He's got a couple of them. If there's no threat, why are people moving like that if there's no threat? And that's the bigger question, right? Because nobody's really talking about that. They just want to say, focus over here. Don't worry about what they're doing over there. Now, people are building bunkers here in the US, overseas, because they know something's coming. They've been a part of and privy to some type of conversation. But to say that America doesn't need protection like that is silly. So, from supporters, missile defense expert Tom Caraco, okay, we'll go with that, said that the truth is we're pretty vulnerable when it comes to threats like drones, cruise missiles, and hypersonic weapons. ABC, that leans left, noted that experts in favor believe the U.S. is long overdue to improve its protections against aerial threats. So, without even reading that to you guys, I was like, were you serious? From the critics, I was like, yeah, you're okay with us being bombed. Like I said, you're probably on the payroll. So, how the media covered it, ABC News reported some military experts' criticisms, but also included Caraco's and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's comments on its necessity to U.S. safety. The Hill, which is center, noted that Democrats are concerned about the potential involvement of Elon Musk via his company, SpaceX. Interesting. Because I guess he just moved to Texas and they've got his plant in Texas, SpaceX. But okay. Newsmax on the right emphasized Space Force General Michael Gutiel Glutien's, okay, we'll go with that, involvement in the project, which he compared to the Manhattan Project. That's interesting. I don't want to talk about the Manhattan Project. It's a whole rabbit hole. It would take me an hour to just like set it up, go through it. I actually worked for a company that, yeah. I'm just saying that project was it was pretty intense. I think they're still unraveling and detangling some of the things tangled and interwoven with it, but that's an interesting comparison. But it would be good to see, these types of protections. So I want to look at the Hill because they are in the center. So on the left, we'll just read the headline. So Trump unveils plans for 175 billion Golden Dome missile defense shield. So a little bit of summary from ABC News. They said President Donald Trump on Tuesday unveiled plans to begin building a sophisticated new missile defense shield that could intercept threats from space, estimating the endeavor would cost some 175 billion and become operational in 3 years. The Project Golden Dome which will be led by Space Force General Michael Glutien, echoes President Ronald Reagan's failed Star Wars program, which was criticized for being overly ambitious and siphoning money away from other national priorities. The White House cited advancements in technology as a reason why some of Reagan's visions were now possible. Now, that's from the left. Now, just a synopsis from the center, The Hill. President Trump on Tuesday announced that his ambitious multi-billion-dollar Golden Dome missile defense shield would only cost $175 billion to build and be fully operational in less than 3 years, defying earlier predictions for its price tag and timeline to field. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump said the U.S. had officially selected the architecture for Golden Dome, an effort which will be led by Vice Chief of Space Operations, Space Force General Michael Glutien. So I guess the Hill has more of an optimistic view and that President Trump is putting out there, where the left, as you can see, they're like, are we sure, you know, should we be putting our resources toward this or should we not? And that's a fair question. It's not an unfair question. And on the right, Trump to tap Space Force General to direct Golden Dome, and that would be General Glutien. So President Trump is expected to announce that Space Force General Michael Glutien will oversee the Golden Dome missile defense system. Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth were scheduled to discuss the Golden Dome effort Tuesday afternoon in the White House. So this is good that, it's similar. I kind of like that ABC, they're asking the questions that they're asking because they're valid, right? We want to make sure that we're not, wasting money. We definitely want to make sure that something of this magnitude not only is built properly, but it gives on what it's promising, right? That you deliver on the promise because you don't want it to, be failed. Space Force, that, Star Wars, that during the Reagan era, unfortunately, it did fail. It was something where they were, looking to do more with NASA and the investments and, making sure that they were staying ahead of other countries like China and Russia when it came to space exploration. But it really never came to fruition the way they saw it initially. Whereas what Trump is looking to do with this Golden Dome is to really protect the United States, especially from things that are maybe an EMP threat or drone strikes, and just give us more cover than we have because we really don't have any cover as the United States. And a lot of people say, well, why do we have to? We're so powerful. We are, but we aren't, right? We are still very vulnerable. We just are, even though we have our military in certain parts of the world and we do have our military here, we can only use our military in certain ways domestically because we have citizens here. So it's a tightrope, and it's going to be interesting to see definitely how this plays out. So I want to go to next story. So data is suggesting that violent crime is down nationwide. Now, I really question that. The main reason I question that is because we need to find out if all of the crimes that were committed, whether they were committed by people who were here illegally or people here that are citizens, did they actually document everything? Because in some certain places, they were told not to. So do we really have the real numbers? And is violent crime down? I mean, if it is down, that would mean that the individuals that have been removed from our country, right? That's a good thing, right? We got some of the bad people out, but there are still other people doing things that they know of that they still need to either remove from the country or just arrest and get them off of the streets so they're not bringing further harm to people. So, data suggests violent crime is down nationwide. Violent crime rates in the US have fallen, according to new data from multiple think tanks. So, from the left, outlets from the left, like The Economist, which is left biased, The Atlantic, The Slate, highlighted new data from the Real Time Crime Index. The Real Time found that murders have fallen in many of America's most dangerous cities since 2021, with Philadelphia, Baltimore, and New Orleans seeing the biggest drops, around around the 50% mark. Okay. The organization was launched in September 2024 and is led by Jeff Asher, who previously wrote for the New York Times that leans left. Okay. Again, like I was saying, a lot of the crimes that were occurring, unfortunately, were not all reported. They were reporting people that were citizens, but they were not reporting on people that they considered undocumented or that were here illegally. Those crimes didn't get reported in the same database. So I would really need to see this crime index and see that if it's referencing and how it's referencing. So, from the right, the Washington Examiner that leans right highlighted new data from the major cities Chiefs Association, which had 68 of the US's biggest cities reported an average decline in violent crime in the first 4 months of 2025. The association reported that 11% nationwide drop in assaults, 20% drop in robberies, 14% drop in rapes, and 20% drop in murders. According to its site, the organization consists of police executives representing the largest cities in the United States and Canada. Coverage notes. Neither report was widely covered by outlets across the spectrum. The New York Post, that leans right, reported that Democrat Rep. Alexandria Ocasio Cortez district has seen a 70% rise in crime since she took office in 2019. And what ended up happening was during that time, we were at home. I will say we were on lockdown. And during that time, there were policies that were passed that lowered the threshold um, in robbery, right? They were like, okay, if you rob up to a certain amount, you're not going to go to jail. And so people were, you know, still going outside, robbing and looting. And so there was a rise in crime. And during that time as well, people, were still here illegally, not being removed. Now, this is on the tail end of Donald Trump's presidency. So let's not play politics on this one. But it came down to the policies in New York that were being allowed under the governor. And I think the governor at that time was Cuomo. No, he was mayor. No, he was governor and somebody else was mayor. I forget. But no, he was governor. That was Governor Cuomo. Okay. He was trying to run for mayor recently. I know. They just move on the political chessboard so many different ways. But during that time, Cuomo was the governor. And again, there were policies that were passed that gave some leniency in the state. So this doesn't really roll back up to government policy. This really is a hard look at what's happening in states because states, they all have the Constitution and they're all able to exercise that Constitution. But there were some states like California, I'm not sure about Illinois, but definitely California and New York in their major cities, they lowered the I should say they didn't lower the threshold, they increased the threshold of how much could be stolen, right? And so people were taking advantage of that. I think there was like a video I saw a few months ago of some young women, and I guess they were from Los Angeles, and they went to do some robbing in Orange County. And she was like, yeah, you know, they're not allowing people to steal anymore. She goes, if I would have known we were here, I would have told you not to do that. And that's really sad that our children have been conditioned that crime is okay, right? That criminal activity is all right. And we really definitely, most definitely need to do better and let them know, theft is wrong. If you want something, you need to work for it and earn it. We've really gotten out of that mindset and out of, you know, that human ability to take pride and stock in working for something and earning it and going, I was able to accomplish this. And now I can, spend my money on something that I've really worked hard for. So, but that gets back to, hey, can we lower some interest rates so our children can buy their first home, right? And have a car and it not be so oppressive to them to have the American dream. And to that, we're, handing out money to other people so they can have the American dream. I mean, it's crazy. And, a lot of it needs to be dialed back, but the states have a lot to do with this. It's not just the federal government. And with that, we'll take a short break and I will see you guys on the other side.
We've unified our end-to-end encrypted services to make them easier to use together, because privacy should be the default for everyone. With the new Proton ecosystem, you can add events to Proton Calendar automatically when you accept an invitation. Easily share large files with a secure Proton Drive link. Send secure Proton Drive links privately with Proton Mail.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, where we are bringing the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols. And in our last segment, we were covering data that suggested violent crime is down nationwide. And I'm just saying, depending on how you're reporting it, it could be down. I know, I'm so grateful that President Trump had ICE do their job and deport, get a lot of these individuals out here that don't need to be here, that are criminals. But there's a lot more work to do, but they caused a lot of, I should say, activity criminally during COVID. And they increased the threshold for people to rob stores, So it's like if you robbed up to a certain amount, you wouldn't go to prison, which encouraged theft. It encouraged illegal activity, people turning a blind eye to certain types of activity. And that's been happening in our country for a while. And that's what needs to stop, right? I'm glad that you're saying crime is down nationwide, but are we really counting all the crime? Are they really digging in? So that might be something I'll try to revisit this week and just look at the numbers that they're using and the data that they are actually aggregating. So want to look at another headline. So the FDA stops recommending COVID boosters for healthy people, introduces stricter approval standards. Now, to read a headline like this, it's a slap in the face to people that went out and got the COVID shot because, you were trash if you didn't get the shot. I'm just saying, that time really told a lot about how people felt towards one another, how they interacted with each other. It was very telling, very, very telling. And so the FDA stops recommending COVID-19 boosters for healthy people, introduces stricter approval standards. So the Food and Drug Administration has stopped recommending COVID-19 booster shots for healthy adults and children and introduced new standards for approval. So for the details, Martin McAree, the FDA commissioner, and Vinay Prasad, the head of the FDA's vaccine division, unveiled the new policy in a paper published in the New England Journal of Medicine on Tuesday. The FDA's new strategy will require that randomized controlled trials show clinical outcomes such as fewer infections or hospitalizations before granting full approval of a COVID-19 booster shot. The requirement will be costly for pharmaceutical companies and could potentially limit who gets new vaccines each year. For adults 65 and older, and for people as young as 6 months who have underlying health conditions, the FDA will continue to accept immunotology. Okay, I'm not going to do that. It's a tongue twister. Immunogenicity data for approval. So, for context, the original COVID-19 shots were tested in large randomized controlled trials against placebos. Subsequent versions, updated to match new strains, were tested to ensure they trigger immune systems to fight the virus. According to the Wall Street Journal, that center bias, the FDA previously recommended annual shots for all Americans above 6 months old. McAree and Prasad noted low uptake for COVID-19 vaccines and said more evidence would increase trust in the shots. So, key quotes from this: we simply don't know whether a healthy 52-year-old woman with a normal BMI who has had COVID 3 times and has received 6 previous doses of a COVID-19 vaccine will benefit from the 7th dose, they wrote. However, Dr. Paul Offit, who serves on an FDA vaccine advisory committee, said, I don't think this is going to do anything to make vaccines safer, more effective, or to lessen concerns people have about public health agencies. I think he's right on that one because there was so much distrust because of the force they wanted you to take the shot, and they just didn't want you to have any other options. Now, personally, for me, I got COVID back in 2020. I did not get the shot. I got COVID, so my immune system is built up. I get sick like maybe once a year for 2 or 3 days. That's it. That's my whole thing. And it's weird because I'll get sick in the summertime. It's like June or July. It's weird. But that's when I get sick. I used to get sick usually in October when the seasons would change, when it'll go from hot to cold, which I figured I was like, okay, I'll give myself a break on that. It's going from hot to cold. I'm good. But for the most part, I'm pretty healthy and I've not had COVID again. And it's 2025, but I didn't get injected either. And that was the thing. There were some people who got COVID and they were saying, okay, well, if you've gotten it and you've recovered from it, then you have immunity. So if it came back again, right? If you had a second bout of COVID, your body would know how to respond so that you could recover. That's typically how viruses work. Now, unfortunately, with individuals that did get COVID and they did get the shot, their bodies have been more susceptible to getting it again. Yeah, like they said, this person got COVID 3 times and they had 6 doses of COVID-19. First of all, it was supposed to build up your immune system, right? So if it built up your immune system, why are you still getting it? Your immune system should be better, not worse. And this is why I stopped personally taking the flu shot, because I was, when I would take it, it was like, okay, I know you're supposed to get, some of the variant of the virus, so it built up your immune system, but I was sick all the time. I had cold all the time. So I stopped taking them. And as soon as I stopped taking them, I would say after about 6 years, I've been fine. I don't get the flu. And I'm around people that are sick sometimes. I just don't get sick like that anymore because I'm actually taking care of my immune system. I do take care of the way I eat. I get out, I walk. I don't avoid sick people. I actually hug people a lot. I go out to karaoke. You know what I'm saying? I'm sharing microphones with people. I'm interacting with germs all the time. But at the same time, I'm making sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do to stay healthy. So when I'm out in the public and I'm interacting with people and I'm giving hugs and I'm doing karaoke, that I am at my healthiest place. If I feel like I'm a little bit, sick off, it's like, oh, I'm kind of feeling icky, I stay home. It's very easy. It's weird. It's like we used to do these things simply like you wash your hands, stay home. Masks should be for people who are sick and don't want to get other people sick. A lot of people look at China, and that's what they would do. If they weren't feeling well, they put on a mask, not the people who weren't feeling the well people didn't put masks on. And then another reason why some people would wear masks is because the air quality is so bad. Okay. So it is one of those things we just have to slow down. And I'm really glad that they are, looking back at this and just saying, there should be stricter randomized tests that we, the public, can have access to so we can really truly make an informed decision if you want to get the booster or not, and what's in it and how will it truly affect you, right? We still have companies out there, Pfizer, Moderna, Merck. They didn't produce the COVID vaccine, but I know like Pfizer, Moderna, those were the two big ones. So it's one of those things, if they want to stay in the game for, this particular vaccine, then they're going to have to show proof that it's working, that people should have a 7th booster, because if not, their business model is gonna kind of tank, you know, because maybe people are over it, and we still aren't really talking about the people that were harmed severely and the people that we lost. So there's a lot that they still need to dig through. I'm glad that the FDA is taking this approach, hopefully, and maybe they've got some good people in there, because it is definitely needs change. Let's just say that. Let's just say we need change. Um, okay. This, oh gosh, there's so much good stuff. Okay, we'll get into this one really quick, and then I want to get to this Democrat that was charged. Okay, so, oops, I didn't click it. Okay, so Patel and Dan Bongino. Like Dan Bongino, he was a former Secret Service agent, podcaster, had a great following, and still does. He's not doing the podcast right now because he's working as a deputy director to the FBI under Kash Patel. And they are under a lot of criticism right now. So Patel and Bongino say Epstein died by suicide, sparking MAGA criticism. Because for a long time, people were saying, well, how could you suicide yourself without a rope? How do we know that he died by suicide? Because the cameras apparently weren't working in his cell during that time when he died. Yeah. So there was just a lot of controversy around his death. And so a lot of people think he was suicided or taken out, maybe by someone else. So FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino have publicly dismissed theories surrounding the death of financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, saying he died by suicide. So the details, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in the prison system, been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one. And that's what that was, Patel said. Patel and Bongino made their statements during an interview on Fox Business Sunday based on their review of Epstein's case files, leading some social media influencers to push back. So I'm going to stop right there. When you're looking at case files, did you get all of the evidence? That's all I'm saying. Because to me, a case file is a briefing. And sometimes it should have every single piece of evidence in there. But like I said, just some of the general public information, one of the cameras was out. So was there any, did anybody go in there while the cameras were out? Did anybody see anything going on? There were guards that stepped away from their position during that time. Is that footage available? It's that's I think that's where a lot of people have the pushback, because those questions were asked at the time, but they weren't answered at the time. So for context, Epstein's death has been the subject of speculation due to his connections with high-profile individuals and his facing trial on charges of sex trafficking of minors. Okay. Epstein's alleged co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, was convicted in 2021 on several charges related to the sex trafficking scheme and is currently serving a 20-year sentence. Yeah. She on house arrest, y'all. Look, not even talk about it. Sometimes money is just working for you. I'm just saying. She's not doing hard time. She is not in the penitentiary. Okay. She's just not. She's not. So how the media covered it. Fox News, who's right biased, used some subjective terms, saying Patel and Bongino insisted he killed himself and described conservatives as livid in February after the Trump administration's Justice Department facilitated a release of documents related to the Epstein case that critics claimed had been a complete disappointment. The Hill, which is center, described Patel and Bongino's answers as blunt. MSNBC Left described Patel and Bongino as well known for being conspiracy theorists in their own right, adding they arguably bear responsibility for the outrage from the MAGA faithful. Axios, that leans left, also used the word insisted and echoed that the two have long-standing credibility with conspiracy-minded Trump fans. Yeah, so this is going to be interesting because for the longest time, you guys were like, yeah, But now you're saying, okay, now that we've actually seen the case file, we've seen the evidence, it looks like a suicide to us. So, yeah, y'all got a lot to walk back. I'm just saying, it's one thing if you go into it saying, you know what, they're saying it wasn't a suicide. We think it is based on this, but we could be wrong. If that had been your position the whole time and now you're here, I'd be okay with that. But that's not the case. I mean, y'all, there are several videos out there where y'all tripled down that this man was suicided, that it was not suicide. And again, without having access to a full body of work, right? The case file, the records, actually looking at if there were any photos done. My question again comes back to there were guards there that apparently left their post during the time that he apparently committed suicide. So, is there footage? Because his cell had footage. I guess that's the bigger question that a lot of people have. Did you view footage or did you just view a case file? Because a case file can say anything that it wants you to, right? And if you have pictures before and after, it can tell you a whole story in one way. But is there actual footage of what happened? Because he didn't have access to a rope. He only had his clothes. Did he rip up his clothes? I think he had like paper clothes. He didn't even have real clothes on. So how did he commit suicide with nothing to really kill himself? I guess, again, that's the bigger question that a lot of people have. A lot of people. And I know this is something that you guys wanted to get done because the public was definitely demanding it, because before you got here, you were like, well, if I were here, I would do this. Now you're here. What are you doing? That's where the American public is at. I think people will be forgiving if they can get all of the information, but I think you guys are going to have to give them more than just we saw the paperwork. You're going to have to show some videos. You're going to have to really put this one to rest, because right now, no one's buying it. The distrust of our federal government right now is at a fever pitch. Y'all, when I say y'all are walking on thin ice, I mean the ice is thin. I don't even know. It's like, don't go out there fishing because you might fall in. I'm just saying. Just saying. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. At the top of the hour, somewhere between 8:15, 8:30, we will have a special guest. Actually, you know what? We're not going to take a break. Let's get into this next story before my guest comes on. So I saw this. Did I show this to you guys? I want to say we did, that we went over this. This is about the ICE detention center and the congresswoman that was there. So the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, he was arrested for basically being on ICE property, right? It was weird how he was the only one arrested out of everybody else. I don't know, maybe other people might get charged like this Democratic representative, but he was arrested. The mayor's demanding entry. He wants to make sure that the facility is, that it has HVAC and it has all these other stipulations, and I talked about this before, which is interesting because it is now a federal building and the city and state have no right to enter it anymore. It's pretty much its sovereign ground. Once, it belongs to the federal government, or leased to the federal government, it's their property pretty much until they're done with it. And so the city is currently at odds with the company that has this agreement with the federal government. They're trying to demand that they do all this paperwork. And, I really think the case is going to get thrown out. I'm just waiting for it to happen, but it's happening. So we'll see, because at the end of it, it's like, okay, all you want is information and entry. You're suing them for like maybe $75,000. It's one of those things. Does it really pass the smell test? Does it really? No footage, no guards. Step up. Okay, thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah, you're right. And this is in reference to Epstein, right? No footage, no guards. Yeah, it is set up. And a lot of people are saying that because come on. And I really do appreciate uh, Dan Bongino and Cash Patel for taking on the enormous um, job of really I will say rebranding the FBI because people have just known it as a criminal outlet for the longest time, unfortunately, right? They were set up to stop RICO, but they've been a RICO organization since their inception. And then we have the CIA on top of it. I mean, like I said, we could spend a whole show just talking about the FBI and the CIA and the nonsense. But I'm hoping that Cash Patel and Dan Bongino can really bring some integrity back to the FBI, can really bring some transparency where they can, because I know a lot of these things become cases and then they are, sent, to the AG, and the AG on their part, they're using the FBI to further investigate. I really do hope and pray that they are doing the best that they can to weed out those that are bad actors and really rebrand the FBI into the agency that it should be to protect the American people, because that's why they're there. Okay, so Democratic Rep McClover charged with assault after incident at ICE. It was wild. We showed the videos here. So Democratic Congresswoman, LaMonica McClever has been charged with assault after an altercation with federal officers outside an immigration detention center in New Jersey, according to the state's top federal prosecutor. The charges against McClever, announced by interim U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Alina Habba, that's a mouthful, involve assaulting, impeding, and interfering with law enforcement. At the time, McClever was with other members of New Jersey's congressional delegation inspecting the facilities for oversight purposes. Footage appears to show McClever making contact with an officer while in a tightly packed group of people. McClever has denied any wrongdoing, saying the charges are purely political, and is accusing federal agents of escalating the situation. Now I wish I had the video. Because it was wild. It was wild. Look, I might even have to pull it up. We might have to go back to the story tomorrow because wow. If you saw it, you'd be like, "Yeah, you don't put." I can understand you, like, "You don't put your hands on me," but you were engaging them. You had the opportunity to step away. I think when you look at the footage, it's like you had every opportunity to not be in that position, and you forced your way into that position. You did. And you were pushing on agents, which you shouldn't have been doing, almost engaging them to engage with you, right? It was bad. It's a bad situation. And I will say alleged, right? Because now you're being charged. So now you're going to go to court. So now we have to use the word allegedly for everything until this is resolved. So, for context, in addition to being an interim U.S. attorney, Haba is also a counselor to President Donald Trump and his former personal attorney. The charges come after a protest at the facility earlier this month when Newark Mayor Ras Baraka was arrested through his trespassing case has since been dropped. So they were able to drop the charges of him trespassing, right? Because he was outside, but at the same time, they were on federal property, and it's considered federal property once the government's leasing it, it is what it is. That's what we're doing. So it says the key quotes: I have persistently made efforts to address these issues without bringing criminal charges and have given Representative McClever every opportunity to come to a resolution. But she unfortunately declined, Haba said. In a statement, McClever said, earlier this month, I joined my colleagues to inspect the treatment of ICE detainees at Delaney Hall in my district. We were fulfilling our lawful oversight responsibilities as members of Congress have done many times before, and our visit should have been peaceful and short. Instead, ICE agents created an unnecessary and unsafe confrontation when they chose to arrest Mayor Baraka. But there was a little bit more that happened there. Now I need to pull up the footage. Now I need to pull up the footage based on what she's saying. Alleged. Okay. So, how the media covered it. The Associated Press, that leans left bias, highlighted McClever's criticisms of the charges and described them as rare for a sitting member of Congress. Okay. The New York Post, leaning right, emphasized that McClever was given every opportunity to avoid being charged, according to Haba. It also included statements from other Democratic lawmakers present during the incident who blamed federal law enforcement for the confrontation. Like I said, you would have to see the footage and then, I don't want to say make up your own mind, but you're like, no, no, you had the opportunity not to do that. You did. You had the opportunity to step away, but you chose not to. So, with that, we're going to take a break, and I will see you guys on the other side. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, bringing you the news unfiltered. I'm going to do a little bit of a different view because like I told y'all, I'm still learning. I didn't want to do it that small. Let's see. I'm trying to make it so where, yes, there we go. You can still see my face. I was looking down there. I was like, "Oh, the title of my name is in my face and the ticker's running across me the other way. So you guys can't really see me. You can hear me, which I'm okay with because I'm more about you guys getting, the news from all sides than seeing me. You don't really need to see me, but I do want you to hear me. I do want that to be pleasant. So I decided to go and find that video, right? That the congresswoman is involved in. So this is from Fox News that reported on this. Let's see what footage they have. It's a 7-minute video. We might not show the entire video, but I wanted to show most of it so we can see what's going on with this representative from New Jersey. Yeah, so it was interesting what happened, truly, you know, uh, and I found the whole thing sad, but here's a different angle. Sorry for the language, you guys. Now I'm gonna pause this really quick because as you can see, initially, they just asked them to leave, right? But they still cannot block the entrance and the exit of the facility, and that's what the people were doing. Now, should they have, as the congressman and woman, right? And the mayor said, "Hey, we can continue our protest or, discuss our grievances, but let's move this off to the side where people are in safety, right? We don't want anyone injured, but we want to still have our stance as to what's going on inside the facility. Let's come up with a game plan so we can come back here and enter and really see what's going on because the only federal employee there, right, was Miss McClever. And if she had not gone through the proper channels to visit that facility, which they do have to go through proper channels, they can't just show up somewhere and do what they want to do. That's not how this works, obviously. But now it's escalated. So let's just finish showing what happened. Now I'm going to pause it again. Now the mayor was asked to leave. When he came out to the other side of the gate, they said, surround the mayor so they don't arrest the mayor. So who caused the incident? Was it the ICE agents there and the police that are there, the security there? Or was it the mayor and individuals along with him saying, surround the mayor? Why are you protecting the mayor? Had y'all just gone literally across the street with all of your protesters, right? We wouldn't even be here right now. We wouldn't even be having this discussion. But because you still wanted to stay on federal property, which it is federal property, here we are. And you're saying there were things that you didn't do that they could seen as you doing. You may not have slammed somebody to the ground, but you did push back against officers. Last I checked, that's a crime. So let's finish it out. I think we've got a few more minutes. Let's see if there's any more evidence here of this alleged situation, because now there's charges. Now, I'm going to explain something to you guys a little bit in short. Assault is verbal. Battery is physical. Okay. So you will hear the alleged assault that she is claiming. However, she is carrying out alleged assault on other individuals, as you can hear throughout this video. Let's continue. Now, she's cussing at people and she's yelling at them, but she's claiming they're assaulting her, allegedly. Now, she is also involved in this alleged assault, because when you are calling people out of their names and then you are yelling at them, and you are yelling at them in a threatening manner, which she allegedly is in this video, that could be considered assault. Okay. So you can't put your hands on a congresswoman like that. You will pay. This that whole situation screams of entitlement. It just reeks of it. Yes, you are a congresswoman, and we expect better out of all of our members of Congress, House, Senate, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian. We do not care what party you are affiliated with. You are supposed to carry yourself in a particular manner. And what you did, Congresswoman, is not becoming of a Congresswoman. And you should step down. You should resign. It's embarrassing. Truly embarrassing. I'm not sure how you got elected. You did. Good on you. But your representation of us at the federal level, I don't live in New Jersey, but I am an American citizen. It's embarrassing. It's completely embarrassing, and you should be out of office. There's a few of y'all that should be out of office, but I would implore you to resign. And if you stay in, I would implore other people to find someone to replace her, because that was a disgrace. There is a way to go about getting entry into a federal building. There is. But the way this was done was a stunt. I'm going to call it what it is. I'm going to call it what it looks like. And it was not becoming of a city official nor a federal official. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and I'll see you guys on the other side.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles, and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bytes can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times. with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments, so it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source, because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question: do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
Hey, good guys. Thank you and welcome back to Unfiltered Vision News. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. And today is Women in Wellness Wednesday. And I do apologize for my little intro. I thought I fixed it. Thought I uploaded the right one. And I'm like, really? The wrong one is still on there. But forgive me. I am my own best friend. So we are going to have some bumps and bruises on this technical journey. But with that, I have a special guest that has agreed to join me this morning. I'm very excited. And I'm going to bring her up on the stage now. Thank you, Consuelo, for joining me this morning.
Oh, Grand Rising. How are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. I can hear you fine. So I want you to just introduce yourself to the people. Let them know a little bit about you, what you're working on, and ways we can follow you. And then we'll get into our conversation after.
Okay, so I'm Consuelo Davis. I am the director of Freedmen Descendants Advocacy Group, as well as Goddess Health and Wellness, LLC. I'm working on many of things at this point in time. I just completed a white paper, so I will be publishing that on the birthright citizenship and freedmen. So I think that's very important for us to discuss. And then, of course, I'm always working as far as being a mental health professional in mental health and wellness, and helping our community to embrace mental health and wellness, considering what's happening in our society. 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You never know what may happen that can take you into these different spaces. And with that, you can find me. I am SwayMe on Twitter. I've been Sexy Raw as well. We'll see how much longer they'll allow me to be on the platform with some of the things that I say and do, since I'm an activist and advocate. So yeah, that's some of the things that I've been working on. And thank you for having me, Shaq.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me. And a lot of people do call me Shaq. So I don't want people to be like, well, she calls herself Dr. Nichols. Yes, I do. But a lot of people know me as Shaq as well. It's a little bit easier, rolls off the tongue, especially when people are yelling at me down the hallway. So I had another guest on, Dr. Sear, and she had mentioned that May is actually Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes, it
And with
is.
you being in that space, I wanted you to just share with us maybe some things that we can look out for ourselves mentally, because I look at the whole body and person, right? Mental, physical, and spiritual. So I wanted you to, speak upon that, whatever topic in that
Oh,
realm.
sure. Oh, sure. Okay. So I like to promote mental health is 365 days of the year, as you just heard me state. There are certain things that are going on in our society that is anxiety inducing. right? So many of us may suffer from the anxiety of others as well, because it's been kind of projected onto us in ways. So I like to say meditation, deep relaxation, breathing. There are
Mhm.
some things that I do or teach and facilitate, educate others about. Being a comedic yoga instructor, we believe in the breathing and the rule of four breathing. So meditation, taking time, prayer can be a form of meditation. And some of us, may implement a prayer. So when you're implementing your prayer, take some deep breaths along with your implementing your prayer. Another thing you can do as well is visualization. When you are in these spaces, sometimes we can continuously have the thoughts, um, and they continue, right? So what if you visualize you being on the beach or in a space with someone that you feel comfortable and safe and happy, and take that memory and go back into that memory, and just you'll see how you can change how you feel and how you think if you just bring up a happy memory or a peaceful time that you experience with yourself or with others, family.
Okay, yeah, and those are good tips to have in the practical, right? And it's something you can do anywhere, whether you're in the car or the office, you know, anytime, anywhere.
And
Sometimes,
free.
yes, and free, definitely, right? And a lot of times we really don't value our time, and it's one of the most precious things we have because there's really no value on it because once it's gone, it's gone.
Yes, and that's the one thing I love about meditation, right? I encourage my clients and patients to meditate in the morning and at night before they go to bed, because then you're arising or rising with a calmness, right? A clarity. And when you go to bed, you're helping to relax the body and the mind so that you sleep better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and those things are so important. Thank you for those tips. So definitely, like she stated, she is SwayMe on X. And thank you for, that part of women and wellness. Usually I take a little bit more time, but there's some things that I want to talk to you about because we'll probably go to the top of the hour with this discussion because, we've met, it's almost been 2 years now. And when we met, people are campaigning and we're, learning about all these politics. And along with that is learning about reparations.
Mhm.
And now we've got these Supreme Court justices
Mhm.
making decisions. And I hope they're tracking what they're doing, if that makes any sense, because they've recently, uh, done something that I think could actually help in the 14th Amendment argument. So I'm going to switch the view right now and I'm going to bring up this. Hopefully, everybody will be able to see it well. Got to make sure I got it big enough. This is one of those things. It's like, is it big enough for everybody to see? That's
I,
that's hanging with me. So the Supreme Court approved the largest immigration status revocation in decades. And what they did was the order allowed DHS to proceed with ending protected legal status of the 350 Venezuelans. So they were like, okay, we're going along with that. But what really stood out to me was that I need to find it in this order. So they've got the protected status. They granted Trump administration the right to remove temporary protected status and document order. I'm trying to find it because what they did and what I read earlier is that they said that a lower court could not tell basically the executive administration what to do.
so are you saying that they, in this particular case, they decided to address the injunctions that the lower courts are implementing against the Trump administration?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes. So thank you for, summering that. I was like, wait a minute, I had this morning. But yeah, so per curiam order in response to the decision of a North California District Court Judge bearing Department of Homeland Security Christy Noem's February notice that would have terminated Biden-era 18-month extension of the protected status for Venezuelans nationals in April. So they're shooting down the TPS, but by them doing this, they are basically stating that the lower courts cannot tell the executive branch what to do. Now, that is part of the argument going on with birthright citizenship because it was brought by a lower court. It wasn't brought by the Supreme Court.
mm-hmm.
And so they're having this injunction. And I mean, even one of the justices said, like, okay, so say if we pass this, how do people even have the ability for recourse or even having redress, right, of birthright citizenship to the court? None of this is making sense. And I think it's because it's been built on a whole bunch of lies that are falling apart. But I'll let you take it.
Yes, the executive branch has the right to decide what the immigration policy is along with Congress. So when Trump initiated that executive order on birthright citizenship, then there was a firestorm between the immigration attorneys that are working with the lower courts of course, they went to the lower courts, right, in the states to get a junction or get some kind of injunction to stop Trump from utilizing the birthright citizenship. However, he has that right as the president. Every president has had to deal with immigration since the 80s. And I think it was Reagan that gave the illegals amnesty in the 80s, right?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So now here we are. We know that there's a loophole that they're using via the 14th Amendment. And the president says, no, I am here to uphold the Constitution. And we are going to now cut this off because it is really unlawful, illegal, and unconstitutional. And you see where the lower courts, the judges, well, you would have thought they would have aligned with Trump, but instead they're aligning with these organizations. And what I found interesting in last Thursday's oral arguments is that they are utilizing pseudonyms and bringing these cases via these various organizations because you know why? Those are illegal immigrants that they're representing.
Right.
And they really don't have a case.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I just think it's such a mess. I understand to a certain extent people challenging the government with certain rights, right? But usually those people should be citizens of this country. I think this is where people, their jaws kind of drop and say, how can people who came here illegally, first of all, you're committed a crime. I mean, temporary protected status, and then we have paroled in the United States. We have these statuses and they do exist, right? You're covering these people who have committed a crime, and then you're defending them. They still committed the crime. You're defending them and you're giving them all the rights that citizens have because now you're saying, well, they have due process. No, they don't. They were never citizens here. Because if that's the case, then why does my citizenship matter? You know what I'm saying? Why does it even matter that I fight to not commit crimes, right? That I fight to be a good citizen.
When we commit crimes, we're held accountable.
That part. Okay. That very accountable. Even more so in certain circumstances, depending on the hue in the melanin of your skin. We'll just put it that way. Okay. So my whole thing with this is like, wow, we're really here. We're really hearing arguments where people are saying, well, yeah, their child was born on the soil, so that makes their child a citizen. No, it doesn't. And then they want to use the 14th Amendment to support their argument, but at the same time, they want to dismiss the slaves that even brought it forth. I was like, okay, without the Emancipation Proclamation and slavery, why are we even here?
Exactly. And that is the problem that I'm seeing, in that they're attempting to erase Americans.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and in that, I've been stating, it's unfortunate, and I know a lot of people will not like this, and when I say this, I see them as supporting human trafficking and fraud, as well as there's an infiltration in our government with immigrants that now want to circumvent our laws, or they want to misinterpret our laws, so then it applies to them and their people, so that it's easier for them to get their people here on the soil.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, that's the nefarious part
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
happening. And we're paying for it with our tax dollars. By the way, I just want to let people know these non-governmental organizations, they have contracts with our federal government to do this.
Mhm.
So not only have courts been weaponized, our own tax dollars are being used to do it. It's disgusting. You know, I have these little chats with my audience in here, and we're friends now. You know, we can have all these conversations. I'm like, y'all, this is crazy. They just, sending us up the, creek without a paddle. I don't like it. I do not like it. But I wanted to pull this one up because this from Newsweek, it actually breaks down some few things. So I'm going to read through this a little bit. It says the Supreme Court on Monday sided with Trump and the Trump administration, allowing it to end temporary protected status for approximately 350,000 Venezuelans, putting them at risk for deportation. The decision pauses a lower court ruling from the San Francisco that had extended those protections, which would have otherwise expired last month. The Trump administration ended TPS for Venezuelans without conducting an analysis of the economic, public health, and human rights conditions in the country, failing to include a single footnote to support its claim in the Federal Register notice that conditions had improved in Venezuela. Stuart Anderson, executive director of the National Foundation for American Policy, told Newsweek. So, not that I'm trying to be a cold-hearted person, but I don't care. You don't go here and you need to go home. You shouldn't have been here in the first place, taking up
Well,
resources.
didn't the Venezuelan president say he sent all of his criminals here?
Yeah, and we agreed to it, apparently. Apparently, we agreed to it because they don't want them back.
Oh.
Yeah. That's why some people are getting sent to El Salvador, and that's a whole nother discussion. That's a whole other mess that's going on. But that's why a lot of these people are scared that they're losing this TPS status because that could happen to them. They may not go back to Venezuela. They may have to go back to a neighboring country because Venezuela doesn't want them back. Yeah. The TPS
So
decision was go
when
ahead.
your own country, nation doesn't want you back in the country, what does that say?
Yeah, it says a lot without saying it. It really, really does. It's like you want to dump people off. Now, I was saying the other day, when I was traveling to Aruba, Venezuela is about 15 miles, about a 15-mile trek, that ocean spans. And there are people from Venezuela that constantly try to get on Arubian soil, constantly. And you know what they do? They get them and they dry them off and they put them on a little boat and they take it back home. There's no due process. We are not having a court hearing. I'm not arresting you. I'm not giving you 3 hots at a cot. I am taking you home. Period. And that's what we should be doing. There is a right way to come into this country, and it's not people giving you excuses, TPS, and, paroled in the United States. Those are excuses to allow criminal behavior, and it needs to end. So the TPS decision was likely also unlawful on other grounds. The Supreme Court may now have permitted the administration to achieve its goal of deporting or detaining hundreds of thousands of people without officials following U.S. law. And so this is conflated. What do you mean without them following U.S. law? They are following the law. These people need to be deported. They're here illegally. That is following the law. But
And that's why I'm loving the oral arguments with the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yeah.
It puts them in the space as the main characters to see if they're going to align with the Constitution.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does. It's very, very telling. So they have this, why it matters, TPS, such as civil unrest, natural disasters, to live and work legally in the U.S. The High Court's order issued with only one justice dissenting temporarily lifts the safeguard for Venezuelan nationals while litigation continues. So I was like, if you want to fight for your rights from your own soil. Don't fight for your rights from here. Don't use my resources. Go home and fight for the right to come back here.
Well, that's the immigration attorneys. And most of them, if you probably drill down, they're immigrants too.
Oh, more than likely. More than likely. So what to know? It says no opinion was issued by Supreme Court justices Monday, simply a one-page order on the pending case stating that the lower court stay on revoking TPS Venezuelans was overturned. Yeah, because it's illegal. The lower court cannot tell the executive branch, you can't deport anybody. Excuse me? Really? Yes, he can.
And during the oral arguments, they stated that they've already talked to the lower courts before about these injunctions. That was the argument as well, that so many of the lower courts are implementing these injunctions, and they have increased over the years against the various administrations.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, I already thought they had hammered this out when they were dealing with Colorado. And I think it was another case. And they finally, at the end of it, had to say, okay, not that the president is a king, but he does have executive powers in office to get his job done. And you cannot impede his job. I thought we already had this conversation, but here we are. And I'm like, okay, y'all really gonna do this? I mean, I'm glad you're doing it because you look crazy.
Well, it's un-American.
It really is.
And I love, again, I'll keep saying it, the fact that the Trump administration is clarifying jurisdiction.
Yes.
Right? And allegiance.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was the only high court jurist to say she would deny the government's application for relief. Interesting.
Well, she didn't know what is a woman.
Okay. For me, and this is just me, I'd like to see all the justices arrested, but that's just me. Now, some people may not agree with me. And the only reason I'm saying that is because they are in defiance of the law. Like all of these wonderful little cases, there should be 2 words spoken: thrown out. That's it.
I agree.
We are throwing these out because you're not going to come here with your lies and try to justify people being on this soil illegally in the first place. A lot of these laws that were written violate our 10th Amendment, which says you can't put in place any laws that violate laws already on the books. And you've done it. And you've done it with policy. You call people residents. You keep doing this. And the people that are in the seats, that are justices, that are supposed to interpret the law, that keep legislating from the bench. And here we are. That's why we're here.
Again, I'm going to state that unfortunately, we have an infiltration of immigrants that now want to purposefully and intentionally change the interpretations of our laws and our Constitution so that it appeases them to do what they want to do on our soil. When the Declaration of Independence has already warned us, when we start seeing these actions and behaviors as Americans, we have a responsibility to remove these beings or change it up.
Yeah, Absolutely. And people want to add more justices. I was like, I don't want to add more of them. I need them switched out. I need people that are going to be constitutionalists, which is what they're supposed to be like. That's their job.
Mhm.
Their job is to hear things that actually determine the lives of citizens, not non-citizens. That's why it's frustrating that we're here, because they're fighting for people who not only disrespected our laws, they're disrespecting the people that are in line doing this the right way. You know what I mean?
Correct. Correct. And they're just disrespecting the United States. They cannot be American. I agree with our late great ancestor Barbara Jordan. You're
Mm,
not entitled to anything in America,
right.
especially if you're an immigrant. You have to align with the values, with the philosophy here that we've already established. It's bewildering to me that
Mm,
people come here and think that Americans must acquiesce and capitulate and coalesce with them.
yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the liberal mindset, right?
Mhm.
They came here and they're just like, well, these other people rolled off the red carpet for us. What do you mean I can't wave my flag from my country? Because you're here. Because apparently, you went through the mountains to get here, but now that you're here, you have no respect for the country. And that's the problem. You really didn't have to fight the fight that others that are doing immigration properly have had to go through. And now I see and understand why it takes 5 to 10 years for some of these people to actually become citizens. I mean, I don't like it, right? But I understand it, because
Well,
there is so much vetting that needs to be done.
exactly. And you know what? I'm of the mind that the 5 to 10 years is good, because then you are having to learn America.
Hmm.
You're having to now learn how to assimilate
Yep.
into the culture. And you just can't come here or think you can just come here and I get to dictate about what happens in this country on this soil when you don't have any history here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will say I'm all for an immigration moratorium. At
Yeah.
least 20 years. Some people are saying 50 to 200, but
We
I
need
will
it.
say at least 20 years.
Yeah, we need it because we need a realignment in our country, because things like TPS, right? And paroled in the United States, those are vehicles for backdoor amnesty, because they will bring people in here like that. And they'll be like, well, these people were under the impression that by coming here and having this status, they could now, apply for citizenship or get citizenship. Right. And so it's a backdoor way of having amnesty without saying it, because they just want, the president and all the people in Congress to throw their hands up and say, well, there's too many people here. We can't send them back. What are we going to do? Oh, my goodness. It's like, I tell you what you can do. Look, Mr. Holman is on the job and would do it himself if he could. And he's trying to rally everybody he can to send people back home, because he knows how important it is. But our Congress, it's important for them to step up too.
And just the fact that humanitarian parole is something that gives them citizenship after what, 18 months, 2 years?
Yes. Yes. That needs to be stopped and ended immediately.
Yes. And you
Immediate.
have individuals that have served time, wrongfully convicted, and they still have to fight to remove those crimes or expungements off their records,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
even getting a job. It's a
Yeah.
hindrance for them.
Yeah. 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 So, this is the hot topic right now. Okay. Immigration. And it's a real hot topic because, like I said, it's a slap in the face to the citizens of this country, along with being a slap in the face to those who have gone about getting their citizenship the right way. Right. And like I said, they're in line for 5 to 10 years. And then you want to do this, to what you said, humanitarian parole, which again is another vehicle of backdoor amnesty. And these are the things we got to bring up to the administration and say, hey, any vehicle that allows somebody to just circumvent our immigration laws and become a citizen need to be stopped now, immediately.
Well, that includes the military, because you
Mhm.
go into the military now,
Yep.
right? They can
Yep.
get citizenship from serving.
Yes. Yes, I said any and all vehicles.
Mhm, mhm.
That
Yeah,
if
I agree.
that's another one, shut that down too.
Right.
Because again, no, we have immigration laws. We have a naturalization process. Period. We already have things on the books.
I
And to
learned,
go ahead.
excuse me. No, I learned that, and this was from Mark Rubio, a Cuban. He stated that some of his people that have sought asylum here will go back to Cuba and visit family.
Wow. Wow. So were they really seeking asylum? Is that what it was all about? Or did we just say the pretty words so we could, kind of skip the line a little bit? I'm just saying. Just saying. Well, thank you so much for joining me here on Women in Wellness Wednesday. I love to chop it up with you. So if there's any political things that you want to talk about, I know that everybody's looking forward to tomorrow, hearing some more of these oral arguments from the Supreme Court Justice. So again, definitely follow SwayMe at X. And do you have anything in closing you'd like to share with the audience?
Yes, I will. Again, I will be publishing a white paper. I'll send it to you, Ms. Shack. And then I would love for everyone to support our petition that we are delineating and ethno-aggregating as a founding population of Americans, so that we can have our own office of Freedmen, or Freedmen Bureau of Freedmen Affairs, and that we can enumerate our people. And also with that, we can begin to restructure, reestablish complete reconstruction under this administration, and move forward, and hey, build some more towns, start manufacturing again for ourselves, and sit at the table of the government without others representing us, because we are noticing so many are coming here, and due to the melanin, the skin color, are stating that they are us, but they are not a founding population of Americans. So we must, unfortunately, due to this, what we're seeing right now, this infiltration of immigrants, make sure we are separating ourselves as a founding population. So I ask for that support. You can look me up on X, and I have the petition out there to sign.
Okay, great. I'll make sure to post that when I post the clips later on of our segment. So again, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for, joining us here today. Oh goodness. I have so much trouble with this stuff. Sorry, technical difficulties. Like I said, I'm my own best friend. It's me. I'm the producer. So when you guys see my little clips, that's me. When my little intros and outros, that's me. So thank you for just, going through the bumps and the bruises with me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And I'm so grateful for everybody that joined us this morning. Thank you, Mr. Gibson, for joining. And as always, I want you guys to, stay informed, stay alert, and definitely stay unfiltered. And we will see you tomorrow on the next one.